Alan and Aaron from Calon FM.
Go on, Aaron, get the room going. First of all, before I begin, a huge thank you for inviting us to be here on stage today, to be here at this event. For me in particular, I've got, my career in media and in journalism actually predates his birth, which I realised the other day. I've been doing media and journalism for over 20 years. It was that ultimately brought me to radio, but I'm very new to the world of radio and broadcast radio. Already I've seen in the 6 months I've been involved in management of radio, the incredible support available from UKCRN. I usually sort of listen in on meetings. I usually take on volunteers while Aaron's doing the meetings so he can have that time to do the meetings. But already we've had so much support from the network. Really, truly appreciate that. So, off the back of a career of over 20 years in journalism, it was really interesting for me to step into radio and bring some of the skills from working with magazines, from working with news platforms, working with multimedia, so working with video journalism, even documentary filmmaking, to bring that to radio and bring those same principles to radio for me has been a really interesting journey. And I think it's something that, Aaron and I having different skills and new visions has really helped in us, bringing the new version of Calon to what it is today. Just 3 weeks ago, looking at the pictures behind me, Aaron and I were joined by the public as the Mayor of Wrexham opened our brand new studios. He cut the ribbon with his chains jangling to the echoes of Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire, which you'd have to watch our video to understand that. We were joined by an incredible cross-section of stakeholders from our community, all gathered in one room. They included the police, the local MP, representatives of the Welsh Government, community councillors, Wrexham's Pride organisation, representatives of Wrexham's Polish, Portuguese, Indian and African communities, local charities, educational organisations and more. We did, of course, also have representatives of Wrexham 2025. We've been a stakeholder since that began. When we actually restarted Calon FM, we didn't know anything about that. It hadn't even been announced publicly. So just this, few months later to be a stakeholder in that and to be a shortlisted contender, absolutely fantastic. And we're so lucky to be part of that conversation. When we set out to build a brand new radio station from the ashes, our dream was simple. We wanted to be the voice of our community. What those of us knew, or what many people saw, was perhaps the sad and even inevitable demise of a little-known community radio station. At least, I suppose, given we were in a university, most had the respect not to call us a student radio station. No disrespect to any student radio stations there. But Aaron and I saw things differently. What we saw was an opportunity to do something new and to actually make a radio station as it should be, in our view. We wanted to build an all-new Calon FM that was a proud, passionate, and positive voice that reflected the true diversity, culture, and heritage of our town and our region, because, of course, Wrexham is not just a town, it's the Wrexham County Borough as well. So we have this interesting dynamic where Wrexham has two meanings. We wanted to make sure our audience in Wrexham, in the broader sense, were included in our offering. We wanted it to be a radio station run by the community, for the community, hence the choice between us and the board to establish as a community interest company. The range of attendees at our grand opening event is testament to that vision. But let us step back for a moment and reflect on the very rocky road that led to this pivotal moment for Calon FM. About 2 years ago, the 105 frequency in Wrexham fell silent as a small radio studio nestled comfortably in a quiet corner of Wrexham Glyndor University played out its final broadcast. Some noticed, many didn't. A community radio station that had been in existence for 14 years came to an ignoble end at the hands of a board of directors who had convinced themselves that the profit-making station was no longer viable. They had also, it appeared, convinced themselves that nobody would care if it just quietly disappeared into the night. They were wrong. What they had utterly failed to consider was why, for 14 years, people of all ages and backgrounds had sacrificed huge amounts of time, completely free of charge, to be volunteer presenters. They hadn't considered why, even when the studio doors were forced to close for lockdown, presenters were recording shows from kitchens, bedrooms, garden sheds. I recorded shows in my car, sat on the street, because it's the only way I could get silence. They were so wrong. I guess, without wanting to criticize the former board, they had their reasons. But for them, money was easy to define and measure. Profit and loss accounts were a known factor, even if they were profit accounts. Community spirit isn't measurable in the same way. And it certainly isn't something you can present on paper. Neither, as we have proven, is it something you can switch off by ending a radio transmission. So, led by Aaron and myself, and of course, acknowledgements to our predecessor Amy, who played a key role as well in Calon restarting and starting Calon, let's say Calon 2.0, I suppose, right? A small team of volunteers set out to build Calon FM from scratch. We literally had a 9-year-old computer that we had salvaged and a dodgy bunch of cables. But we cobbled together a radio station. And when we secured the license back from Ofcom, our horrible mess of wires became a broadcasting radio station. But Aaron and I knew that for Calon to succeed and build a listenership, we had to do things differently. With no studios to allow the community to come to us, there was only one option: for us to go to them. And so, supported by our own personal assets, which we were willing to make available to Calon, we embarked on a mission to go out to our community and be seen. And I would say, for the record, it was very lucky for the station that both Aaron and I are kleptomaniacal technology geeks. All over Wrexham, Aaron and I, for the last 6 months, would appear and just start pulling mix desks and microphones and a whole other bunch of weird and wonderful gadgets out of backpacks. And we'd create a pop-up radio studio. Come rain or shine, we were there, armed only with a shared vision and, I should probably add, a very inappropriate sense of humor. It got us through those dark times. We broadcast Remembrance Day live on air. We compared and reported Wrexham's food festival. We recorded the first ever performance at Coleg Cambria's multi-million-pound new building. And we raced a hurricane to cover the Christmas lights switch on. A day later, we awoke to a scene of devastation where we had been standing the night before. The trees we had sheltered under were no longer standing. But thankfully, fate had been our friend. Later, as the Wrexham 2025 City of Culture bid kicked off, we chased vintage buses around Wrexham. We reported as the community gathered more recently to support Ukraine. We literally shed blood, sweat, and tears to put our station in the heart of our community. In return, the community embraced us. A community that had been cut off by COVID was being reconnected by a team of dedicated volunteers who were out there championing the town and, more importantly, giving people a voice. Since opening our new studios just 3 weeks ago, not a day has gone by without guests coming in and being part of our programming. This last week alone, Aaron and I have introduced over 130 school children to careers in radio and careers in media. We've facilitated interviews with the only Pride rugby team in North Wales, And we've connected with a rare animal sanctuary doing important conservation work. We supported the National Museum of Wales this week to recruit their first ever History of Hip Hop curator. And as some of you who attended the UKCRN meeting this week may have enjoyed listening into, we made dreams come true by allowing a group of severely disabled, neurodiverse individuals to fulfill their dream of singing on the radio. Yesterday, we announced our first ever Portuguese language show, led by representatives of Wrexham's 8,000-strong African diaspora. Thanks to the work that Aaron and I have done to make our station truly inclusive and to unite our community, they felt empowered to join us. For Aaron and for me, the journey has only just begun. But I would like to think that if there was such a thing as a definition of community radio, that we are working towards being a fitting example. I'm going to let Aaron share a few words now of his own experience.
Hi. Contrast between me and Alan. I'm the fun one. You're welcome. So, I joined Calon FM back in 2019. I was 15 and I presented a couple shows on the station to keep me busy. My dad told me to reach out to the station, the Calon FM. My response was, what the hell's Calon FM? Because the station was never promoted. It was never out and about. I don't think a single OB was done. It just wasn't present there in the community, you know. It was just a radio station that was operating, you know, having shows, playing music and jingles, and that's pretty much it. I was doing some presenting for an online-only station for a while before that, but I kind of decided, you know what, I like this community radio thing, let's do it. And I started my first couple shows, and now we're here. It's a very long journey, very long. Well, how did I get here? Doing technical bits for a radio station. Well, it's not a very interesting story, but guess what? I'm going to tell you anyway. I've always really enjoyed doing things with computers, like doing networking, coding, all that kind of stuff. I've only recently put it into practice in 2020, and kind of a lockdown project, I started an online radio station with the help of some people who worked in UKRD that got made redundant. We ran Myriad, had a broadcast chain, streaming server, redundancy, all that kind of stuff. It wasn't just a standard operation. The old Calon station had 2 studios that weren't networked together. You couldn't switch between them. There was just a singular live studio and a pre-record one. It ran Windows 7, an older version of ML List, and the rack that was running the computers had about 2 computers that were running Windows XP. This was 2020. You have the old saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But sometimes you just need to breathe some life into things. And that's what we've done, haven't we, Alan? 2 brand new switchable studios. We've got patch bays. We've got the rooms big enough to actually create content. The old studios were just glorified, converted office space. You know, it's correctly networked too. You know, it's running Myriad 5 now, so we can do stuff remotely. We can go live from home without being tech-opt. It's so much better. You know, I'm actually able to remote control computers now because we can finally put in a VPN because the uni didn't want us to. New branding, press releases, a brand new custom-built website that pushes the station into the 21st century with new, improved stuff. We've started doing things like outside broadcasts, even though it is with our own kit. You know, they were once in a blue moon previously, and we've seen the effect of these outside broadcasts already. You know, people are starting to recognize Calon. They're starting to warm up to the brand. We've just done 4 in the past couple of months. Like, that's a lot. And we've just started introducing journalism to the station, you know, giving colleges, people who've got an interest in journalism to come and try their craft on a radio station. We didn't have that previously, you know. The station technologically has been catapulted from probably, I want to say 2009. I think I'm too young to do that, but to 2022. Like, I thought some of the stuff was a bit archaic. It's what it needed. We've been given a really unique chance to grow the brand by getting out there in our community and doing things that are important to them. And that's what community radio is all about. We've been supported by our new board of directors to make decisions to progress the station along. I describe it as an easy journey, but it's not. It's been really hard, and I'm really glad that Alan has been there alongside me. We've kind of been described as the Anton Deck of Calon FM.
For good or for bad?
I don't think that's a good thing. We've both been there to help each other, and I think that's really important. Like, if I need help with doing any kind of admin side of stuff, I go to Alan. If Alan needs some stuff for his show, he comes to me. Like, it works really well, and we make a good team. Would you say that?
We make a good team.
No pressure.
No pressure. No, I think we've bounced off each other as a team. If I'm going to say
Yeah,
it, so you can
yeah,
hear it. I think one of the key things that we established early on is we wanted to break away from the traditional role of station manager. We didn't feel for the place that Calon was in that a traditional single station manager was going to bring much value to the station. Yeah. What we needed was the different views, the different visions, and the different skills pulled together. And that's why we actually encouraged the board to create a split role, that we share the role, and that we can actually bring both of those roles and the technical side into a shared role. And I think it's really benefited the station.
Yeah. Anyway, that was all about how we kind of picked ourselves back up from being dropped by our old directors. Any questions? Hello. Just wait for the mic to come.
Well done for that, guys. A couple of questions.
Don't make it hard.
No, it's all right. How difficult was it to get the licence off Ofcom? Was it literally handed back?
Okay, so what happened was in January we got shut down by our old directors. In February there was a tender process by our local, what do you call it, voluntary council.
The community CVS.
Yeah, that's the one. And they basically did a thing where they had like a thing. They had.
I'm going to say this. You can interpret it as you wish. I've got my own view of what went on. Other people have other views. But ultimately it came towards being, a tender process where they said, if you want to regain the assets and regain the license, you've got to compete against rivals in an open competition, which there were no rivals before we went off air. So that was an interesting development. One rival did arise out of all that, which was a rival radio station in Wrexham, who do like to try and tell everybody they are Wrexham's community radio station. They're not an Ofcom registered radio station. We argue that. But no, there's a key thing there in terms of winning that license back. Yeah. Because it then came down to us versus them in terms of who a third party would decide to support in applying to Ofcom. So it wasn't just us applying to Ofcom, we were also at the mercy of a third party deciding whether or not they would actually endorse that. So it became quite a difficult thing.
Well done, guys. Thank you very much for that.
Follow me on Twitter.